Presented by Listen Headlines, latest world news from trusted sources. Updating daily at 6 a.m. New York.
Mirror World News.
June 30th. 5:07 America, New York. Russians forced to flee strategic Snake Island in major blow to Vladimir Putin. Ukraine's Southern Military Command wrote on Facebook that following a successful operation involving missile and artillery units, Russian forces had evacuated from Snake Island in 2 boats.
New York Times World News.
June 30th. 5 o'clock America, New York. Vitaliy Kim, master motivator and symbol of Ukraine's resistance. Applying the lessons of Taekwondo, the regional military leader has rallied the embattled southern city of Mykolaiv. Vitaliy Kim has worked to puncture the legend of Russia's might.
New York Times World News.
June 30th. 5 o'clock America, New York. In Athens, creativity in art, food and more rises. The Greek capital has added impressive arts venues, daring restaurants and a blossoming hotel scene to its well-known classical draws. In the heart of the city near Greece's parliament, the Athens Capitol Hotel has an extensive roof deck.
Mirror World News.
June 30th. 4:33 America, New York. Vladimir Putin's destructive new Satan II nuclear missile as grave threat to UK. Russian state media has called for the British Embassy's Moscow address to be changed to Sarmat Square, named after President Vladimir Putin's flagship, Satan II, nuke.
Washington Post World.
June 30th. 4:30 America, New York. Despair and denial amid search for Ukrainian mall victims. How do you grieve when there is no body to be found?
Washington Post World.
June 30th. 4:29 America, New York. New Zealand labels Proud Boys and the Bay's far-right terrorist groups. New Zealand said that the Proud Boys' role in the January 6, 2021, U.S. Capitol riot contributed to its blacklisting.
New York Times World News.
June 30th. 4:27 America, New York. The UN has documented at least 3,924 Ukrainian civilian deaths in the war. A gravedigger working at a site where 30 unidentified bodies were buried last week in Bilohhorodka, near Kyiv.
BBC News World. June 30th. 4:24 America, New York. China's President Xi arrives Hong Kong for handover anniversary. It is President Xi Jinping's first visit outside mainland China in nearly 2.5 years.
Wall Street Journal World News.
June 30th. 4:21 America, New York. Israel to hold new elections after parliament dissolved. The decision marks the end of the first Israeli coalition government to include an independent Arab party and sets the stage for the country's 5th general election in less than 4 years.
Washington Post World.
June 30th. 4:18 America, New York. Ben & Jerry's back in West Bank settlements, East Jerusalem. Ben and Amp. Jerry's said it did not agree with the deal reached by its parent company Unilever.
BBC News World. June 30th. 4:15 America, New York. Yair Lapid, the TV host set to be Israel's new PM. The 58-year-old former boxer and TV presenter will take the top office for the first time.
RT World News.
June 30th. 4:07 America, New York. U.S. intel sets out possible scenarios for Ukraine. A protracted military conflict is the most likely of 3 possible scenarios, according to intelligence chief Avril Haines.
The Washington Times Stories. Advocacy.
June 30th. 4:02 America, New York. Live updates. Britain sends more military aid to Ukraine. The latest on the final day of the NATO summit in Madrid.
The Washington Times Stories. Advocacy.
June 30th. 3:58 America, New York. Israel's parliament dissolves, sets 5th election in 4 years. Israel's parliament voted Thursday to dissolve itself and send the country to the polls in November for the 5th time in less than 4 years.
Mirror World News.
June 30th. 3:25 America, New York. Man, 19, plummets 6 floors to death after slipping on hotel roof on Thai Island. Shocked locals found 19-year-old Australian tourist Joshua James Connell dead on a tin roof of a cafe below the hotel at around 5:45 p.m. local time in Phuket, Thailand, after he slipped.
RT World News.
June 30th. 3:19 America, New York. U.S. hypersonic missile test fails, Bloomberg. The Pentagon blamed an anomaly following ignition for the missile flop in Hawaii. According to Bloomberg, a hypersonic missile test flight ended in a failure in Hawaii on Wednesday, Bloomberg reported citing the Pentagon.
RT World News.
June 30. 3:09 America New York, UK pledges more military aid to Ukraine. The British government promises an additional £1 billion, $1.2 billion, worth of weapons to Kiev.
BBC News World. June 30. 2:14 America New York, Hello Kitty firm strikes China deal after viral hit. Shares of Japanese company Sanrio rose by almost 14% in Tokyo after the agreement was announced.
Time.
June 30. 2 o'clock America New York, Bongbong Marcos takes over as Philippine president. To change his family's brutal legacy, he has to save the economy. After a landslide victory in one of the Philippines' most polarizing elections, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., a former senator and the son of a late dictator, was sworn in as the Philippines' president on June 30.
Wall Street Journal World News.
June 30. 0:59 America New York, China's economy returns to growth mode as COVID lockdowns lift. Economic activity expanded in June after 3 months of contraction, according to official surveys of businesses and factories, but economists are downbeat about the prospects for a major revival.